the concept of my existence and folks like myself tends to undermine the virtues of those ideologies, which they are simply that.
Welcome to Baltimore's best podcast, Inappropriate. I'm Jim.
I'm Steve.
And we have one hell of a show for you.
It's a massive show. Massive.
I consider us progressive, Steve.
I would consider us progressive. I'd like to consider myself progressive.
I don't even know exactly what progressive means nowadays.
Yeah, now when you said it, I didn't really know. It just sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds
like you like Nirvana.
What we should be saying we are.
Yes.
We have a guest who has lived a life that is different than most of us and most of our listeners. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's absolutely fair to say.
I've known our guest since middle school all the way up through, and recently touched base from almost 2 decades of not getting an update from our guest. And for our local listeners, specifically, I want to shout out my Lansdowne High School class of 96 listeners.
Seems so far away.
I'm not as old as that sounds.
Yeah.
At least in my mind. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
So if you are listening because somehow you heard through the grapevine we have this particular guest on, welcome to the show. We broke up this interview into like 15 to 20 minute segments. We're going to put one out every other weekday until it's done.
Go on the roller coaster ride that this interview takes.
So without further ado, let's welcome Micha Angela to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
We have lost touch, and I want to get
Have we ever
our
touched?
audience. So we have known each other since 6th grade. We then entered high school, right? I was the running back, and you were the quarterback of Lansdowne Vikings football team.
That's being so generous in that description.
Were you guys good?
Oh, were we good? We tried. The team was... We were undercoached, and I don't think any of us played to the actual potential, and I don't think any of us were ready to play to our potential. It was like a team full of people who probably came into their own probably in their late to mid to late 20s. So if we could put them all back together 15 years later, then we'd probably have been a great football team, but not when we were all doing it. That just didn't work. Nobody was ready to make that type of physical commitment. We were all just a bunch of little boys at that point. Nobody had trained us. But I guess I just let the cat out of the bag. Y'all are probably looking at me like, oh, did she just say little boys? So,
she did say little boy.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness, in that regard, I believe when you and I played, the JV team didn't win a game in 5 years. And then we came out and we won their first 2 games, and people thought we were the
was that really
the next.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were a winning list team for several years,
and we broke that streak.
And then, we won our first 2 games, and people thought, oh, they're going undefeated.
Al Bundy, look out!
This is when Lansdowne changes. And then we lost every other game after that.
Yeah.
Jim is like Al Bundy. He's like the threw 4 touchdowns in one game kind of thing.
Jim was good. Jim was one of the only people on that team that I trusted, because the rest of them, even though they were trying, they weren't blocking. So I spent most of my life running, most of my high school career running for my life. It's kind of an inappropriate metaphor. I guess it had to be done, it was kind of bad tasting medicine, but I guess it had to, I guess the patient needed it. Yeah, so, football, Ravens.
Now,
yay.
Now, shortly after high school, did you stick around? Because we lost touch I guess, as you do with everybody, you graduate. I mean, I don't know if I even talked to more than one person, even on a casual basis, that I graduated with. But did you hang around the area for long? Because I know that you moved out west.
I guess you should go backwards.
Yeah.
Because any listeners or viewers are probably still wondering what the fuck.
We were going to do like a dramatic reveal, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, I wanted a Cabbage Patch Kid when I was 3 years old. Like, hella wanted it. My parents wouldn't have it. And I wanted one, but my parents were like, oh no, you need G.I. Joes, so you can't have one. So I had to throw a fit to get my Cabbage Patch, motherfucker.
But you did get a Cabbage Patch.
Oh, I got a knockoff garbage gas station bag version of a Cabbage Patch Kid, right? She didn't even come in a box. It just came in a clear box. Like, that was all I got, right? So, like, it was like a year later that my parents went to Hawaii on a business trip or something, and they brought back a real Cabbage Patch, right? But it was a boy named Taro. I remember him, like, distinctly. He had a red Hawaiian shirt on. He was cool, but I wanted his sister as my friend, and my parents wouldn't have it. So that was the start. That was when I first recognized myself, right? But my parents
and that
pushed
was
that
at
under the
3 years old?
3 years old. So that began what turned into 32 more years of personal misrepresentations. I liked camouflage, right? I always thought camouflage was like, oh, it's gonna make people like intimidated of me. Maybe I'll even carry a gun and they'll be afraid of me. Really, that camouflage was camouflaging me because I was trying to not have people see that feminine side, that I was born in the wrong box, right? I got hit by a car that same year when I was 3 years old.
When you were 3, you were hit by a car?
Yeah. I look back at it now, I see it as an attempted factory recall because I was packaged in the wrong box at the baby factory.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, right? That's how I've justified it in my life. I would love to find the dude that ran me over. His name was Rob. At that time, he was 17, so doing the math, that would put him at
That puts him about 60.
Yeah, he's about 59, 60, right. Rob, if you're out there, if you ran a little kid over in Avalon, New Jersey, reach out to these two dudes and get to me because I owe you a beer.
So when you say
okay, so that went a little different direction.
No, so this dude, it was honest. It was an honest little kid mistake, and he was backing out. And you know how big cars were back then. It was a big green thing, and apparently he rolled me right over, dived me out into the street. I have burn scars on the back. They've pretty much blended now, but anyway, had I not screamed, they say that the tire would have crushed my head.
Oh, wow. So you're riding your big wheel, and
I had walked the big wheel home, and I was walking back to get my Pepsi on the sidewalk.
Okay. And you were crossing the street?
No, I was just going down the sidewalk. But
and this guy was backing out on their driveway.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
Clobbered me and rolled me out into the street.
Wow, you're lucky. You're definitely lucky.
The way I look at it is, had I not reacted, had I not screamed, that tire would have crushed my head and that factory recall would have been successful. As it was, my dumb ass screamed, and I got stuck because at that point, the Great Everywhere Spirit was like, oh, well, it wants to try, so why don't we give it a chance?
That's one way of looking at it.
That's the only one I got, right? So yeah, fast forward that. When? After high school. You remember Bob
our
Vance?
High school?
Yeah, I remember Mr. Vance? That old crazy science teacher dude?
God.
He was a big fat guy with a beard and black.
The name sounds familiar.
Like that. He was like, he ran the theater department. He got like arrested for
minors?
soliciting minors and like doing some like
How do you know what's going on more than I know what's going on? And you live all the way across the country.
This happened years ago.
So going back to you with the getting up, so you said it was at the moment that you realized like you were born.
That's like I didn't have a vocabulary for it as a 3-year-old. Nobody, I didn't know the word trans. I didn't know the word trans. I didn't know any of that stuff. All I knew is that I wanted a Cabbage Patch doll.
Yeah,
that was the very first.
You just liked what you liked. You didn't know
the first inclination of it, right? Over the years, that just kept developing. But it always had to be like sort of, it always had to be no because nobody, I always knew that if I was fully going to be myself, I had to have a sex change. Well, how the hell do you go through kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college? How do you go through like a bunch of jobs? Like, how do you like manage that? And then one day just like be like, oh, by the way.
Right. So in through elementary school and middle school, did your parents like you said that they were like, oh, not going to buy you the Cabbage Patch doll? Were they then realized that you weren't your true self or growing up, or was it something that you had to explain to them in order later on in life?
They always knew, but they've always been in denial of it, and not obviously they're not. They come from the generation where it's it's almost it's a reflection on them, which it's not.
Okay, that makes sense.
My life has been a tumultuous, I don't want to say it's been a hell because it's been a blast, but it's been tumultuous. And I know everybody's life has a lot of that tumultuosity, if that's even a word. But some of the shit that's happened and the repeated shit that's happened in my life, I've been compared to Forrest Gump. A couple of my friends are like, your life is like Forrest Gump. The shit that happens to you is like... I know, and it's like my life, it is like Forrest Gump, but it's almost more concerning than Forrest Gump. And most of that stuff would not have been there had the care been there when I was younger, and had I not been forced to suffer testosterone poisoning until I was, in my early 30s, before Johns Hopkins was like, whoa, wait a minute, what took you so long to come talk to us? And I was fear. Everybody else's fear. They weren't my fears. They're just put there. They were put there by the institutions that I was raised in. They were put there by the Boy Scouts. They were put there by the schools that I went to. The concept of the family structure, which was given to us and it is sold to us still as sort of a mechanism to reach an achievement. You get your 2.5 kids and your white picket fence and your dog, and you're good to go, and you've done it. You did it. You're great. You can have a beer, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? And like that is a social control mechanism that's in place not for the reward of offering someone an American dream. It's in place to perpetuate an economy's currency, which in our case is the dollar bill. Every queen bee knows that without another generation of worker bees, her hive's going to fail. Just how that works. So the whole concept of pushing that achievement onto everybody in our society as though that's the mechanism to enlightenment, which is almost the way it's looked at, all that kind of fell away. That mechanism, a lot of, even if you look at the marketing patterns of our normal year, Labor Day mattress sale, or what is it, a Labor Day, President's Day mattress sale, Labor Day, whatever sale,
President's Day, all
back
that
to
stuff,
school sales, all this economic, and then the Christmas cycles, and all of those things that are in place that are built around that family structure system thing. The concept of my existence and folks like myself tends to undermine the virtues of those ideologies, which are they are simply that. They're ideologies. They're constructs. Jim, you sold me my first hits of acid. I don't know if you knew that. But those hits of acid were what started, in a lot of ways, fucking saved me. Because I was in the military mindset. I was wearing fucking camouflage. We met in front of Relay Elementary School. I remember it distinctly, man. Distinctly.
I love that. I don't know if I love it yet, but was it a good thing?
Yeah, it was a good thing.
And then
you gave it to me. You didn't sell it. No, you gave it to me.
Oh, look.
That's the biggest shock I've ever heard in my entire life.
No, I'm just doing it for the fact that this is recorded. So you need a clip that says that you gave it to you, so that you're not on the hook.
I see what you're saying.
I think statute of limitations says.
I gave it to you. That's all. No, so yeah, Jim, you gave me my first hit of acid. It was great.
That was a good thing. So obviously you mentioned it. So what did that enlighten you somehow, or give you a different perspective, or?
Oh, here's a great story. You know what that led to? That led to an absolutely beautiful moment in time, and I will recite it for you, because if you have any listeners left over from that high school class, I'm sure somebody might even remember this.
That seems like a great point to stop this. I want to keep going, but I think who doesn't like cliffhangers? So
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, part 1. Let's wrap this up. Part 2 will be in 2 days. But while you are hanging out with us, if you are listening and you love this one, check out, especially if you're local, check out last week and the week before, we had 2 awesome episodes with everyone's favorite local musician, Jason Butcher.
One of the greatest band names ever, the Betty White Stripes.
And then maybe just pick some random episodes.
They're all good, honestly. So just pick one.
So hang out with us again in 2 days for part 2 of this magnificent interview.
Turn your notifications on for Inappropriate, just so you don't miss 1 second.
And if you enjoyed this interview, especially my LHS people, share this to all the other people who may be interested before episode 2.
Yep.
So for Inappropriate, I'm Jim.
I'm Steve.
See you later.